My name is Dr. Julie Radlauer, and I am the CEO of an organization called Collectively.
What inspired you to be a part of Collectively?
Well, I started Collectively back in 2020. I've been working in a consulting field for almost 20 years, but really needed to kind of like shift my focus to focus specifically on mental health of children and families. I had been working in many systems, including child welfare, probation, education, as well as the mental health space. But after I got my degree in public health, I chose to kind of go all in the behavioral health arena.
Yeah, what is it like working with kids and families?
So the work that I do is not specifically with families anymore. Now I do more research, and then
Yeah.
I take that research and I turn it into curriculum and information that people, everyday people, can hear. I do a lot of public speaking, a lot of writing, more at the population level, at the community level, because my PhD, my doctorate degree was in public health, which really focuses on population level and how can we look at like statistics and how can we impact more than just one person. So that's the majority of the work that I do is I focus on research around children's mental health and mental health. These days I'm really focusing on social connection and then turn that research into digestible material that everybody can do every day that can impact their mental health and make them happier.
And I saw you also created a workbook. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the workbook is called Connect 100 Ways to Create Happiness in Your Life. And basically, it's designed to take the research, and there are 100 different activities in the workbook. So take the research, and turn it into actionable items that people can do. So if you're feeling disconnected, you can turn to the connections chapter. And there are 20 different activities about ways to help you connect better. If you're feeling like you need a little more support in your life, you can turn to the social support chapter. And there are 20 different activities about ways that you can improve your social support. If you feel like you're spending too much time on social media and that's making you, feel sad or anxious, you can turn to the social media chapter and it will give you 20 different activities you can do to manage your social media to improve your mental health. So it focuses on the 5 social influences, which are social connection, social support, social capital, social media, and social inclusion. And then in each one of those chapters, there are activities that you can either do yourself in a reflective way or with, if you're a parent with your children, or if you're a teacher with your class, if you're a therapist with your clients. So there are things that everybody can do to improve their mental health.
How does it feel for you to be creating something that truly makes a difference?
Oh, thank you. That's sweet. You know what? I really love the creative process. So that research piece is a little bit painful for me, though I just kind of get into this like space where all I can do is research. But once I have my information, the creative process is amazing because I feel like I am creative, but not so much with like a paintbrush, but with research and trying to find ways to take, some statistic about neuroplasticity and turn it into something that somebody want to learn about so that they can use it when they're feeling sad or lonely or something. And then it will help them feel better. So I love to research the science and then bring the science to life.
When I was doing my research, I saw a lot about your public speaking, and you've spoke at some big events. And when I think of public speaking, I get all nervous and and shy. So, what is it like speaking to these influential people?
Well, I love sharing research. And I like doing it in a way that's fun and engaging and gets people laughing, but also thinking and going like, who do I know that I could contact right now to share this with? So I love to do that. Public speaking in and of itself is kind of a lonely activity because you're just talking
Yeah.
to people, but you don't really get to interact with people the way that you and I are interacting right now. So I need to balance that. If I just did all public speaking, that wouldn't be good for my soul. But I really love, I love doing workshops. So not with, 1,000 people, which is when I do a lot of the public speaking, but when I've got, 30 to 50 people in a room and I can kind of like see how people are appreciating the material and using the material and how it lands on them and when people have aha moments. And especially when people come up to me afterwards and say like, wow, that really touched me, or I know somebody I'm going to use this with, that brings me so much joy because I feel like we're in a place now where people kind of don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So if I can give people some tools and they walk away and feel like they can use them with somebody who they love, who's struggling, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah. On your website, you talk a lot about collaboration. Uh, what is what is some of that method that you do with collaboration?
Well, so I'm not an expert in everything, obviously, but there are lots of places where I'm like, I wish I knew something about this because it would help the people that I'm working with. So I'll reach out to somebody, like, for example, I do a lot of work in social connections. And though, there's a lot of science behind connection. And so but I'm not, like a neuroplasticity scientist. So I would reach out to somebody who focuses on that and say, okay, what can you tell me about connection that I can use to help people? And they would share with me some of their latest research about, say, like, the oxytocin cycle. And then I would kind of turn that into something that I could share in a way that people would understand it, and digestible little bites so that people would understand it and then be able to use that for themselves to understand more about connection.
What is it like getting feedback from people that you either spoke to or they've used some of the workbook and stuff like that?
Again, when you do a lot of speaking, it's like you pour your energy into people, but you don't get that much back. So, I can speak to a room full of 1,000 people and then I'm finished speaking and they go on their merry way and I go on my merry way. A handful of people will come up and say, oh, that was great. Or if I do a book signing and have to sign hundreds of books, I'll do that. But when somebody comes up to me and says, my brother was really struggling and I sat down with him and used your book and we came up with this activity and it changed his world. Or a therapist will reach out to me and say, just so you know, today I used activity this and this and on page 11 and it really made a difference for this client. I just want to thank you for doing that. That makes me feel like, okay, it's not all for naught. When you give out so much energy, but you don't get much in return, that feedback loop, when people actually say like, this worked and thank you, um, that definitely makes me feel like it's all worthwhile. Okay, so I have some questions for you.
Okay.
Tell me about you and your organization.
So, Paisetta Media, I was in broadcasting for over 20 years, and I was more on the production side, but all the news was, pretty depressing or not focused on people. And I really wanted to focus on people. So me and my wife created Paisetta Media to tell video stories about people on the front lines, nonprofits, and mental health journeys. And a part of the mental health focus is because I live with bipolar disorder too. And when I was diagnosed 5 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of videos of people with lived experience or just talking about mental health and succeeding in life. So I'm like, I have the skills. Let me do it.
That's amazing. So you used your talents and your skills to bring information about mental health to the general public.
Yes.
And how do you love doing that? Like, what does that do for you?
It. It's basically extra therapy for me. So it actually does a lot for me when I'm talking to people who are openly sharing their experience, and I could really relate to it. So I'm like, I'm not alone with this stuff. So this helps me. And I know whoever watches it or nonprofits that I talk to, hopefully it helps them as well.
Absolutely. I mean, so much of what I do is talk to people like you who have very unique skills and talents and strengths.
Yeah.
And try to help people make sure that they lean in on those strengths and use those strengths every day because that's like you said, it becomes therapeutic. You know, you're looking forward to organizing this event and the editing process, all of the things that you do. And for me, that's totally overwhelming because it is not a strength of mine. So I look to partner with people like you who, this comes naturally to you. And in fact, it gets you into flow, makes you feel like, you're using your talents. I love that. I love that you've come to this space with that.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very excited, and talking to especially people like you who are making a difference, makes me happy to connect with people.
Absolutely. Do you talk to other people who do the same thing? Are you able to like pull out their strengths? Like for me, research is a strength. That's something that I do. When you talk to other people, do you talk to them about their strengths and how they use that strength to help them get through difficult times?
Yeah, I do. Just this week, I talked to someone who's an artist and how they use their mental illness to help create this art and get it out to people with, they do a lot of positive quotes about, you're not going through it alone and stuff like that. So, in a, art cool way. So, talking to people like that and hearing more about their superpower or what they're doing with their mental illness or research or stuff, anything like that, because I try not to say I just do mental health stories. I My goal is to talk to people with emotion. So there's a lot of people out there, so I don't want people to be like, oh, it's just, mental health, mental illness. No, everyone's going through something. So, and you have a great story, and I want to get it out of people.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like, not that there were a lot of silver linings from COVID, but that to me is definitely one of them is
Yeah.
that, people are more comfortable talking about what they're struggling with because we realize everybody's struggling with something. We're all human beings and no,
Yeah.
this is our human experience. So I love that you're spending time talking to people to pull out what are their strengths and their positives and how they're using that to get through their challenging times. That's the majority of the work that I do. So we actually have the same mission.
Yes. What do you do to help your own mental health?
Well, I do a pretty healthy routine of physical activity. Like I'll wake up every day and try to do either, like a walk or a run, or I'll go take a Pilates class. I feel like when I do that physical activity, it kind of helps me get grounded for the day. I also, to have my morning tea. Try to have like a little bit of a routine in the morning that helps me get started with my day. Spending time with friends is something that really helps my mental health. Just connecting with others and having like genuine, authentic conversations about the things that are troubling us or something good that's happening in our life. Also, because I do research, so reading is something that I always really enjoy doing. So I think I spend, when I talk to people, when you do something, you don't realize how much of it you do. But when I speak to people and I say like, oh, I'm having a rough time, they're like, really? You're just like, you are so into self-care. How is it that you're having a rough day or something? And it's like, yes, of course. I do all of that every day. And there's life, you spend all
Yeah.
day talking about people and their struggles and their challenges. It impacts you.
Uh, what are some of the things that motivate you?
What motivates me? Um, I think making a difference in this world is
Yeah.
something that motivates me. Knowing that I'm creating a product that is going to help somebody is motivating. Um, what motivates you?
Uh, the no one has ever asked me that question back. No, what motivates me is help giving people a voice because I know when I was in TV or some or just in life I didn't really have the voice or too scared to use it or stuff like that. So I don't want people to be afraid to use it because they can help the next person and then the next person. So I think that's the big thing that motivates me.
That's awesome. Were you in front of the camera or behind the camera
I was, I was
before?
behind the camera. So when I when I started doing like interviews like you, I try to stay off camera, but then I'm like, this mission's too important. I could, get over my fears of being on camera. So hopefully I'm getting better. But yes, I'm doing everything now.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that I talk about in terms of helping people build connection is their willingness to be vulnerable. And
Yeah.
so you doing something that's difficult for you or that doesn't come naturally, but you're willing to
No.
do it for the purpose, like that's amazing. That's what makes connection. So good for you.
What would you say to anyone going through a tough time?
People ask me that all the time. And the thing is, it's different for every person.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think I really love, there's this process called Wellness Recovery Action Planning or WRAP. And as part of WRAP, they do this thing called creating your wellness toolbox. And the toolbox is basically, literally, you have a box, and in there you put the things that make you feel better when you're feeling down. So it could be a tea bag to remind yourself to go get yourself a cup of tea. It could be a playlist to remind yourself that when you listen to this playlist, the music gives you positive energy and it lifts you up. Or it could be pictures of somebody who's special to you, or a letter from a parent, or your favorite candy, or a bath bomb, or whatever. Everybody's
Yeah.
wellness toolbox is different, and so you create that when you're in a good headspace, when you're feeling good, but you know that it's there so when you're not. So if I wake up and I'm feeling kind of blah for the day and I'm like, oh, how am I going to get through this day? I'll just go visit my wellness toolbox and see what's in there that's going to bring me some joy, and just kind of like help give myself the space to sit and be with that feeling, whatever it is. I also try to employ, something called the 90-second rule, which is, when we have emotions that usually we process emotions within 90 seconds. 90 seconds also is about 12 breaths, you know? So I'm not necessarily doing it to sit there and pay attention to my breaths or count my number of breaths, but it allows me to know, like, okay, I'm just going to sit with this feeling, feel the feels, feel what I have to feel, get through
Yeah.
this.
Right.
And then within about 90 seconds, that feeling will probably pass. And so I like to give people tools that they know that they can use to like lean on when they need it, because we all need it at some point, you know? Yeah.
Where do you want to see your mental health mission, say, in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh gosh. My passion really is young people because I feel like,
Yeah.
they're going to change the world. So we need
Yeah.
to give them the
Yeah.
tools and the power to do so. I'm really, concerned about our young people and their level of connection or disconnection.
Yeah.
And some of it's related to, the smartphone and how much time we spend on phones. Some of it's related to the fact that people don't really communicate in person anymore,
Yeah.
but communicate through text or choose to jump on a Zoom instead of going to their faith-based organization for Saturday or Sunday or, religious activities, or are not engaged in their community. So I really am passionate about teaching young people how to um, connect differently, because I feel like that is part of the reason that we're struggling with this global mental health crisis, is that we've not connected in the way that we need to. So if I could say, what I would love to happen is I would love to create not me create, but I would love for young people to, create a movement around connection, about
Yeah.
valuing connection, and not so much as putting the phone down, because the phone is a very useful tool, but recognizing it as a tool that it is and using it that way, but choosing to recognize the things that make them feel good, like spending time with people in human form, and really,
Yes.
yeah, and doing that, and making themselves do it, because it's so easy to just say, "Ah, I'll just log on to the sermon virtually," as opposed to going to their faith-based community. But when they don't do those things, they don't have the social capital of being part of a community and belonging in a community. Um, and then they miss the after party, which is going out for lunch with people afterwards, or
Right.
right, you miss that part of connection, because you kind of compromised it for the convenience of being on a screen. So I would love that for there to be a movement around connection with young people, to kind of get to from where we currently are to where they need to be, so that they feel that they have other people that they can lean on and will support them.
How can people reach out and learn more?
Well, you could definitely go to here. We were talking about don't go on social media. Well, so social media, on LinkedIn. Most of
Yeah.
my materials on LinkedIn, on Instagram as well, and of course, my website, which is collectivelyus.org. And yeah, I'll talk. I'm very open to talking to people about mental health and the things that they could do to improve their mental health, as well as the mental health of those around them, because I feel like we really have to change this narrative around mental health.